This first part of chapter 10 is helping us to understand when we are looking at comparing two proportions, we're going to have to understand how the distribution of those differences, so we're combining two random variables, we're going to see how that affects the distribution of that combination, and then we're going to go ahead and run. We have been looking at deciding if, and when we're looking at two competing claims, whether there's enough of a difference to be able to say that it's not just chance based on the random variation of how things work out, but actually it's rare enough to be considered statistically significant. So in this chapter, we're looking at comparing two populations or two groups in the first part with proportions. For example, some situations that might be looked at might be, did a politician's polling numbers really go down over time, or did people's opinions change over something, whether it's gun control or abortion or anything like that. We're going to look to see if a difference in percentage is statistically significant or not. We also look at experiments, perhaps the survival rate with one drug versus another. Does the difference between the two of them show a significant difference, or is it just something that could have happened by random chance? So when we're looking at two different things, of course, we're going to have more fun notation. And so we're going to name in our situation what the population or treatment is. And so then we're looking for the true parameter 1 and the true parameter 2. And we're going to build that off the statistics parameter, p hat 1 and p hat 2. And then the sample size, of course, needs to be notated as 1 and 2. So if we were looking at a politician, for example, we might look at an October polling versus a December polling, and we were looking for the true population approval rate in October versus December, and then we're looking at the difference of the actual statistics that we got from there. This particular example is asking us to, once again, assume something, just so we can understand the mathematics behind it. We're going to assume we know that the parameter 1 is that 70% of the students did their homework, and the parameter 2 is 50% did their homework. Now, we rarely know the actual population parameters, but we're using this to talk about how the statistical sampling of p hat and p hat 2 look when you combine them, when you subtract them. So we're doing this to understand the mathematics behind it. Once again, we will rarely ever have the population parameter that clear. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at an SRS of 100 and an SRS of 200 in school 2. Remember, our goal is to figure out yes or no, did they do our homework tonight? So keep in mind that means we're talking about a binomial random variable. Because it is binomial, it's independent, each person's answer is independent of the one before it. We know ahead of time that the ends are going to be 100 and 200, and we have our population parameters already figured out, 70% and 50%. Most of the time, those probabilities are going to come from a statistic, not a known parameter. Now, when we look at P1, which was at 70%, we look and we notice that the center, of course, is right there at 70%, and our standard deviation, because it's a binomial random variable, works out to be using our well-known standard deviation formula of P1 times 1 minus P1 over N1 square root, because that gives us a standard deviation of about 0.046. And then we look at the sampling distribution of P2, which was 200 students. These are, as opposed to the simulations we've done in class, these are computer simulations that can do lots and lots of simulations. And after they've done lots and lots of different ways that p hat 2 could work out, we end up with the center being right at 0.5, and our standard deviation is using our formula 0.0354. So we're really interested, though, in P1 minus P2. p hat 1 minus p hat 2, please excuse me. And so here is what happens when you look at the distribution of those. We'll notice that the mean is the difference of p1 and p2. And the spread is not the difference of the standard deviations. And that brings us back to what we know about combining random variables way back. Remind you what random variables are. We talked, in the last two slides, I talked about the requirement of a binomial or random variable. Here's our random variables. And I remember when we were putting these two together way back when, we found the mean of the combination of these by adding the means, but we did not find the new standard deviation by adding the standard deviations. It had to do with the variances. We had to add the variance. So we would go ahead and take our standard deviations and square them. And then we could go ahead and add them together and then take the square root of that to find the new standard deviation. Same thing is happening with the work that we're doing with the proportions. So we're always looking for the difference. We're going to go ahead and take the difference of the means, and then we're also going to take the square root of the standard of the square root of the sums of the variances. And here's that in the book's language. If we are going to take the difference, the center of that distribution is going to be that difference itself. If we're going to be looking for the new variation in our new p hat 1 minus p hat 2, that variation is going to come from adding the variances. So our new standard deviation would actually come from the square root of the sum of those variances. Okay? That's one of the few things that you need to keep straight. And so it's going to look like this in the formula. Oh, type the equation here. I'll just write it. So our we know that our variance for p hat 1 looks like this. And our variance for p hat 2 looks like this, because we haven't taken the, that's a hat. We haven't taken the square root yet. So this is the variance of p1, this is the variance of p hat 2. So to find the new standard deviation, we just take the square root of the sums of those. That's what it looks like. So this looks a little crazy, but basically everything we know about distribution, stuff like that, is going to transfer to the work we're doing with the combination of the two distributions. Remember that we always have to check our conditions. I want to remind you why we're checking conditions. When we have at least 10 successes and 10 failures, we know we have enough of a sample to the distribution is going to be approximately normal. So when we're looking at two proportions, we have to make sure it works on both p hat 1 and p hat 2. That's what that means. You have to check it for both. If the large counts works, then we're approximately normal. We just said that the center is the difference between p1 and p2, and then the spread is going to be the sum of the variances and the square root of that. So, but we can only use that formula when we get that we know that the sample is no more than 10% of the population. Otherwise, it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't meet the requirement of being independent of a binomial random variable. So none of this stuff is particularly new, except we need to be reminded about the sum of the variances being how the sampling distribution shifts. But other than that, it's the same stuff. You just need to remember large counts has to do with normality, and the 10% has to do with independence. And if it's independent, we can use this formula. This is a picture version, which for some people that that would definitely help a little bit. The standard deviation, here's our sum of our variances, the mean is our P1 minus P2, and then this whole thing is a sampling distribution. So this visual might be a helpful one to you. So I'm going to walk you through this, but it's in the textbook. Basically, if you're getting a situation, you're going to have to check to see if it meets all the requirements, and you're going to have to check it on both samples. And so since this is a combination of two random variables, if you're going to be asked to talk about the shape, the center, and the spread of a sampling distribution, the shape, you're going to pay attention to your, if it says that both of them are normal in the first place, you can go ahead and just say it tells you they're normal. Otherwise, you have to check the large counts on both samples. And so here they checked it on the first one, and there's more than 10, there's 70 and 30. They checked it on the second one, it's 100 and 100. So because those things are big enough, the distribution is going to be approximately normal. The mean is just going to be the subtraction of them. And then our standard deviation is going to be the sum of the variances and the square root of that. So there we go. So this summarizes how, when we combine two proportions, what happens to their distributions. And we'll need that information as we move forward with our confidence intervals and our z-tests.